You will find it very beneficial, and this is something which the knowledge of which you require to fulfill your duties towards any loved one who passes away. And we thank our brothers Saif and Sufyan, mashallah, for coming down and delivering this knowledge to us, inshallah, and hopefully, inshallah, everybody will find it beneficial. Before I start the session, we will do a tilawat of Quran Majid and a few verses of Naaz Sharif, and then I will actually give you the details of how the session will go, inshallah. I'd like to call Ibrahim for tilawat Kalam Majid.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان. والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ رب المشرقين ورب المغربين. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ يخرج منهما اللؤلؤ والمرجان. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ وله الجوار المنشآت في البحر كالأعلام. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان؟ صدق الله العظيم.
सारे साथी दूसरी पढ़िए सल्लल्लाहु अलैका या रसूल अल्लाह वसल्लम अलैका या हबीब अल्लाह। जहान सारा तू फिर लबावें जहान सारा तू फिर लबावें मदीने वर्गी ओ जान मिलसी हुजूर दे दर जे आ कोई दर हुजूर दे दर जे आ कोई दर किथे तेनो दूसरा न मिलसी और खुदा दीजे कर तलाश होवी ते मेरी मन लै मदीने आजा मदीने तेनो खुदा ने मिलना है मदीने तेनो खुदा ने मिलना है मदीने बाजों खुदा न मिलसी और खुदा जे देवी तौफीक बंदिया जहान सारा तू छाण जाके हजार कारी कुरान दे मिलसन हजार कारी कुरान दे मिलसन ते कारिये कर बला न मिलसी जहान सारा तू फिर लबावें मदीने वर्गी ओ जान मिलसी they should be ready for the akhirah, whether it's for themselves or whether it's for their loved ones. And inshallah, just give you a brief details regarding how the session will go. The first section, inshallah, will be on pre-death. Most of you obviously will have these details with you. And at the end of the pre-death, I will say a few words regarding obviously the process we have here at the masjid and the people who contact me in regards to getting details on how to process with after the death of their loved one. Section 2 will be ghusl and washing. There will be a refreshment break in between as well. We will break for Zohar inshallah at 1:15, and straight after Zohar, section 3 will start, which is regarding the kafan and shrouding, and then dafan and burial, And after that, inshallah, section 5 will be the wasiya and the will writing. And the aim is, inshallah, to finish by 3:30. There will be food, inshallah, after Dhuhr. So straight after Dhuhr, I forgot about the food, which is the main part of this. So if you come to a Sunni masjid, you need food, mashallah. So after Dhuhr, we will have food, inshallah. Please make sure that you have the food and concentrate on the food while you're talking as well, because we don't want people just chatting away and then they're late for the session, because we need them back straight away, inshallah, after food for the next session. With that, inshallah, I hand over to the brothers. Jazakallah khairan.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Mawlana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. My respected brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. First of all, Jazakallah for Brother Zia, Brother Ashad and Bhai Zahir, who invited us down here to Maidenhead today. This is our first time here in Maidenhead, however, we've been doing this for some years now. We travel all over the country with the same course, spreading the message of Islam, and trying to make people more aware of the funeral rites, the rights upon them, the loved ones, and the whole process from start to finish. Our aim is to also address certain misconceptions where maybe perhaps culture overlaps religion, and what's right and what's wrong. So from time to time, we are going to ask for your participation, just to liven things up and to see what you have in your thoughts or what you're thinking of perhaps. Some of you have got pen and paper, which is fantastic. So those that haven't, don't worry. What we'll do at the end is we have a QR code at the end here for you to scan. If you can give us some feedback at the end, we will, as a gift, give you the PDF summarized. So you keep it on your phone. So when the time comes, it's at hand at least. If anybody has any questions in any of the things that were presented here today, you will have an opportunity at the end of every single session to ask. If there's something we don't know, we'll be more than happy to say we don't know. But one thing we do know is we will find the answer for you, inshallah. Okay? So like I said, don't be afraid to ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Please feel free to ask, because chances are somebody else will have the same thing in their mind. Okay? Like the brother said about admin issues, the food and everything, yeah, please help yourself. If any time you need to go to the washroom to freshen yourself, please, you're more than happy to be excused. So we're going to kick off. I just want to ask a few questions there on the screen. 3 questions. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to read them, and then I'll ask 3 brave volunteers for the answers. Five seconds left. Okay, question 1. You can just raise your hands if you wish to do so, unless I will have to volunteer somebody. Can somebody just share with the rest of us, why have you come here today? Sorry, just one second. I think he was first. Sorry. You can do number 2 if you wish. Sorry, what's your name, brother? Okay.
And some, I've experienced a couple of people passing away, and each masjid I've gone to is slightly different. Even the time period is different, how long it takes for the ghusl and stuff, and the knowledge is a little bit different in each one.
Okay, mashallah, fantastic. So what's your name? Asif. By the way, I should have said I'm Brother Sufyan, so nice to meet Brother Asif. That's something we will inshallah cover when the time comes for that particular module, so thank you very much. Question 2, what do you think the term funeral rites consists of? Are you still happy to answer the question, or should I go to someone else?
No, it's just
somebody else. Yeah. Should be easy then. Good, mashallah. That's a much better answer than the previous plot, but no, that's very good to hear, mashallah. And the final question, do the funeral procedures vary or differ between sisters and brothers? Okay, brothers say nodding yes. Let's have a roll of hands. Who thinks yes? Just put your hands up, please. Okay, the vast majority. Who thinks no? Interesting. That's an interesting, isn't it, answer?
Go
That's
on.
previously, mashallah, well done. Okay, now, if you notice on the screen, we're going to try to stick to English where possible. Now, from time to time, that's inevitable. We'll have to switch to Arabic. However, everything we're going to try to translate or transliterate. So anybody here who can't speak Arabic, or maybe they're a revert, we've tried to accommodate yourselves. If there's something on the screen you cannot read, maybe you have dyslexia or a learning barrier, that's fine. Speak to me afterwards. I will either go through it again, or we will give you a copy where it's easily accessible, because I'm conscious people have maybe visually impaired, hearing impaired, and there are other difficulties out that people have as well. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Ustaz Saif. He can summarize this particular topic as to why.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You'll probably find me moving about quite a lot today because I'm head of the practical element. I will be joining in with Brother Sufyan as well. But the brother read a surah of the Quran today, Ar-Rahman. And before I start asking, I won't ask, I'll just tell you, most people are confused with the actual word of the definition of Rahman. Our whole Quran religion starts with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And it kind of links into the topic of today. Rahman really means, people say, translate as the most beneficent, the most merciful, Rahim. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts our deen to say to you that Ar-Rahman, I am Rahman, meaning Rahman is the one that gives to those who are not deserving. That is what Rahman means. The one who gives to those who are not deserving. And why does he give? Because he is Rahim. He has mercy on you. So this, what we are delivering today, consider it, this is the Rahim from the Rahman. This is the mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we hope that while you're going through the different sections that we deliver today, you will actually understand and get to know how many people out there do not really know a lot of these ilm or the knowledge of funeral rites. And one of the questions that were asked is, what do you understand funeral rites to be? And as the brother said, and most people give this answer, that it starts from your ghusl. Ghusl, kafan, dafan, etc. But your funeral rites actually starts before you even die, whilst you are alive. And the rights are not yours, the rights are the people around you. And I want you to consider when we do segment 1, which is our most important segment, and I've attended many funeral rites course presentation before we came up with this idea and we started delivering ourselves, people that are international in the delivery, and not one of them ever tackled this issue of pre-death to the extent that we will tackle it. And I want you to consider that how many of these rights have you actually fulfilled all your life till today? Because that is rights of hoping that we might fulfill these rights for them, but we never did. So I'll let you all be the judge of yourselves, hold your own self accountable, and we hope may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to actually practice this, going away from this, so that we can actually start fulfilling the actual rights and do tawbah, forgiveness for the rights that we may not have fulfilled in the past. So I'm going to pretty much jump in and out with Brother Sufyan, so I'll just hand it back to you.
So speaking of rights, so you have rights and you have responsibilities. When it comes to rights, everybody talks about my rights, my civil rights, my so many rights, marital rights, but not many people talk about responsibilities. They shy away from them because they involve work, they involve effort. There's something everybody has. See, there were two types of responsibilities. There's faradain and farad kifaya. Faradain is like your 5 daily prayers, individual responsibilities. Some of the things you're going to see today are also farad kifaya. Some of them are faradain. For those who don't know what farad kifaya is, it's like a collective responsibility. Now, from time to time, we will show a translation of a blessed hadith sharif. Obviously, we'll try to translate as best as possible. And sometimes I may skip over it because of time restraints. But this one, I thought, just to start things off, is quite a paramount, because the Prophet ﷺ said to the nearest effect, whoever follows a Muslim's funeral out of faith and seeking to increase his accounts of good deeds, until he makes a funeral prayer, for it he will have a qirat's worth of reward. And he, whoever follows it until buried, will receive 2. Now, for those who don't know what a qirat is, don't worry, because somebody else asked this at the time. They said a qirat essentially is equivalent to two huge mountains, and it obviously in the bracket says the small is like Mount Uhud, meaning what you're about to learn today, if you don't know anything that we're going to show you today, there's a massive, massive reward for it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves this opportunity when we come together to remember His rights, our responsibilities. Because ultimately, everything you're going to learn to her today should take you closer to Him. The course outline, I'm going to go back to Start Safe, is going to summarize how we're going to structure today in the next 4.5 hours, inshallah.
So, our brother Elder already discussed main of them, so I'm not going to really go into too much information here. But as I said, pre-death is our main aspect, so we always like to concentrate on this, because this is one element of knowledge that most people are unaware of, and most people that do not fulfill this. So after that, we will go on to ghusl, and what we will do with the ghusl is we will go through the theoretical as well as the practical here. After that, we will have a lunch break, zuhr, we go on to kafan. Again, kafan will be practical. If people do want to partake or practice, you're always welcome to stay behind at the end, and we can have a bit of a practice session here. Obviously, during we have time restraints. Burial, dafn, is quite limited to what you can actually do within this country in regards to the graves, but we will give you a bit of an information on the types of graves in Islam, depending on geographical location of you in the world, and the grave that the Prophet ﷺ was actually buried in, which most people are unaware of. What type of grave was his grave, which people do actually fulfill the full sunnah of. And then at the end, we have something unique, which is the introduction to Islamic wills. And when we start that segment, I will start on a great big hadith, which normally captivates everyone's attention, so I'll leave that until we get to that section. So that's our schedule of today's session.
So what to do at the time of death? Now, the reason why we thought this is quite important, because obviously when somebody passes away, they pass away. It's quite a shocking news, of course. And some people, if it's somebody in the family, obviously they're not thinking straight, emotions take over, and it's very difficult to process yourself, to think rationally perhaps. So it's quite important, like anything in life, the more you know now, the better prepared you are for when the time comes. Because obviously we're all going to die one day, all of us are going to be gone, and our family members, our loved ones will be going as well someday. We don't know when. So the more you know now, the more you can expect when the time comes, and you can think, yes, okay, I need to do X, Y, Z. Okay? So like stillborn babies, now there's a very good reason why we're doing this one, because about 2-3 years ago, I got a phone call middle of the night, said, Brother Sufyan, my wife's had a miscarriage. What do I do? Now, I'm half asleep, of course, in the middle of the night. However, this is quite an urgent phone call. The first thing I asked the brother is, how old was the baby? First thing I asked. Because the answer to that question determines everything afterwards. Now, there's one number I want everyone here to memorize. If you memorize this one number, the rest is easy for this kind of situation. 120 days. That's it, 120 days. Just memorize this number and you'll see why this is critical. You see, if the fetus was under 120 days, there's no need to wash the fetus or the body. You don't name it. There's no start of Janazah, no funeral prayer. None of them. 120 days, memorize this. One thing you notice from time to time, there's something really important. I'll keep saying it again and again so it goes into that part of the brain. The fetus, again, all you do, you wrap it in a piece of white cloth and bury. Khalas, finished. So 120 days. Now, if the fetus was over 120 days, this is where everything changes. You do have to wash the body, like we're going to show you today. You do have to give it a name. And the funeral prayer does happen only if the child lives, even if it's one breath. The one breath is a signal of life. So please understand, 120 days is the determining factor as to how you move forward next. Steph, do you want to talk about the situation?
So if we understand here, before we go into that, we got the 120 days, which is 4 months. If you look at 4 months. So this is if the wife is pregnant for 4 months, she's become hamila, she's become pregnant, and she has a miscarriage before the 4 months. After which you can see, my question is, why 120 days? Why is there difference between the right when it lives and the left when it dies? Yes. Because of the ruh. The ruh within Islam is actually blown at the time of conception. When the male cell and the female cell joins is when the ruh is blown from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, good try. Anybody else? So we got one element there to say. So before 120 days, it is not needed because the full body, because ghusl, you got to understand, is ghusl of the body. If something has not developed yet fully, why would you do the ghusl of it? Why would you wrap it up? So before 4 months is not fully developed. But the main thing I want to focus on is in regards to the funeral prayer. Why do we offer a funeral prayer? Now when the baby lives, if the baby dies inside the stomach of the mother, the baby actually has never committed no sin, has not come into this dunya. It is ma'soom, it is innocent. Therefore, Salatul Janazah is only for those souls that have entered this dunya. And even entering this dunya is a sin. Because where you are coming from to where you are come to. So when we say, when it breathes even one breath, or you hear one cry of the baby, that signifies you it has lived. Even though it dies straight away, you will now do Salatul Janazah for that child. And there's a difference of Salatul Janazah for adults and for children. So that's the main thing. One of my friends, and he's been a friend for quite over a decade now. And the reason why we included this, because this led me to include this element of this in our presentation. He said to me one day, he said, I had a miscarriage, my wife had a miscarriage 12 years back. And at that time, my family said to me, oh, it's a little kid, just bury it. And he goes, I buried my son 12 years ago. And since that day, I have a regret that should I have done the janazah? Should I have done the ghusl? Should I have done the kafan? Until today, every time that is always playing on my mind. So how do I get out of that guilt? So the importance is, consider, this could be something for your mothers, for your sisters, for your future wives, for those who are not married, and for your wives currently. Islam religion is know the rights of your fellow beings, for those around you, not just yourself. So whatever you are learning today, if it's to do with the women, to do with the ladies, then know one way or another you will have an interaction with them. And this is where you can fulfill that right for them. Now, if they have a miscarriage, of course, let's say if you had somebody that's gone through this, then you wouldn't need to go to the grave and do a new Salatul Janazah, because that time is past. And within Islam, what we say is, you do not focus on regrets. And there's a simple answer to regret, is Salatul Tawbah. Do Tawbah and hope and fear and hope in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He will forgive you for that. The rights that you did not fulfill, they were rights. You did not fulfill the rights of your son for your daughter. And if you do not do Tawbah, then you will be questioned on the day of Qiyamah. So if we know anybody or if we were amongst them, then the first action point that you can do from today's workshop is to go away, do Salatul Tawbah and hope in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And pass it on to others. Because there's a lot of people that go through this guilt and it takes and it eats away at them all their life.
So the time of passing away, again, like I said here in the white sentence, we tried to describe the Arabic terminology. So from time to time, myself or ourselves will mention this term, al-muhtadar, is basically somebody who is displaying the signs of death are upon them. Obviously, where possible, we'll try to stick to the English, but just something to bear in mind. Because there are multiple signs that the person's time is nearly up, more or less. But more importantly for us, because if we are around somebody, it could be at home or in hospital, it's very important to try to appreciate what they're about to go through or what they're going through. Obviously, this will happen to all of us once in our life. So, strictly speaking, it's impossible to try to put yourself in their shoes. It's just the nature of how things work, obviously, with life and death. See, the first type of pain the person's going to go through is what's called a spiritual pain. Now, what this means in layman's terms is they don't know what's going to come next. There's a level of uncertainty. Obviously, it's the afterlife. When the veil's lifted, obviously they're in a whole different realm or such. There's also an emotional pain where we look at, let's say, for example, they're going to leave family and friends behind. For some people, it may be the last time they see them. Obviously, in the akhirah, Allah Ta'ala knows best who goes where. But the fact is, you spent your whole life maybe with your parents. You're going to say goodbye to them. You have offspring. There's so much going on that they, in their mind, may think they're never, ever going to see them. Obviously, when Allah Ta'ala, unites us all in Jannah, that's different. But the fact is, people are human. We become emotional. So already there's two types of pain. You have spiritual, of the uncertainty of what's going to happen, and there is emotional pain. The physical pain, now this one's obviously a bit more easier to spot because it's a physical symptom, it's a sign. For some people, their knees demonstrate because they become weak. They become slack and limp sometimes. You may notice their breathing becomes deeper and quicker. It's not because they're out of breath, when you're exercising. The fact is, they're undergoing a whole drastic change. The temples, the left or the right, or maybe both, perhaps, they sometimes sag. The nose may bend either way to the left or to the right. May bend. And if this person is a believer, one of the signs of the believer is they tend to form sweat beads on the forehead here. The reason behind it is because the spirit is tired of this dunya. They are so tired they begin to sweat. They want to go to the akhirah and be with Allah. Anything to add?
Other question. Taking into account all these things, how does it affect it when a person is under heavy medication? Okay. Secondly, then they don't have a way to stay at home.
Do you want to ask that now?
That's quite simple, actually. So the reason why, let me explain that, and then I'll see if it answers your question or not. So why are these rights? Is this rights for the person that's dying, or is it the rights for the people that are around him? That's what we're getting to here. These rights are not of the individual that's dying. This is for you. So if he's in a coma, if he's under high medication, his akhirah is coming. There's no element of him doing tawbah, no element of him, you giving nasiha, you can change his direction. So that's decided between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What you can do is we will come later to it, which is known as talqeen, to advise. We'll come on to that in another thing is. But the reason we're discussing this here is this is the misconceptions we have in our society. The amount of people in our culture that we are actually subjected to this. And what we do is our father here is about to depart from this dunya. Now, father, brother, whoever is, the brother is about to depart. And he's got spiritual pain. He's going through this. He doesn't know what's going to happen to him. He's sinned all his life. He's done sagira sins, he's done kabira sins. And what do? Sometimes we don't want to attend that person's janazah. That person did this to me all my life. I ain't going to his janazah. How many times do people do this? He had a chance to do it. Think about it. That's not his job now. That's your job. You got a chance now to rectify your akhirah, not his. Why? Because you should go there and say, brother, I forgive you, you forgive me. Because if you got that thing against him, so has he. And if he dies, wallahi, you will be questioned for everything he has against you. So are you really thinking about him, or are you thinking about yourself? Think about yourself. Ask his forgiveness. Forgive him. He won't get questioned for you. You won't get questioned for him. And the key part is this person going through this, and you should be going there to remind them, do tawbah. You know, people say after they have passed away, they say, may Allah give you Jannat al-Firdaus. May Allah give you the high. This was your chance to get them Jannat al-Firdaus. But you chose not to. Because if you just get them now to do tawbah for their sins and give them hope, because at this time shaitan attacks them. You lived a life of sin. Imagine what's going to happen to you. And this is what the person is going through. So now you being there, you should remind them of the hope, of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if they listen to you, you have just granted someone Jannah. And in return, Allah will appoint someone on your deathbed that will do the same for you. So who do you want to be? The person A that's reminding him of the sins, person B that's reminding him of the akhirah and the hope. What you do to others, what will come back to you. Emotional pain, this person is now leaving his brothers, he's leaving his wife, he's leaving his sisters. What's going to happen to these people? What do our sisters do? They turn up and they start crying. This person's already going through emotional pain. Are you adding to it, or are you taking it away? You are adding to the pain. So now he's suffering even more, because he sees the mothers and the daughters and the children crying. Oh, what's going to happen to them? But rather you should come and you should say, Father, brother, you have lived a great life. You have set us up stable, we will pray for you. So he has that sukoon and tamanna from you guys. You are letting him go into the akhirah in the right manner, in the manner in which the Prophet ﷺ used to leave his companions, because he used to visit them and he used to apply these three methods to them. He used to tackle their spiritual pain, tackle their emotional pain, and then the physical pain. One of the things here that is the nose bending. It doesn't happen to everyone. This is subjected to the type of torment you go through at death, which everybody will taste death. Kullu nafsin za'iqatul maut. Now how much death you will taste is depending on the amount of physical things you can see. But that is not subjective. Let me give you a narration of Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha to the nearest effect. She says, all my life I used to believe that a person, how he lived will be how he dies. If a person has lived a good life, he will die a good death. If a person has lived a bad life, he will die a bad death. How many of us believe that? Put your hand up. Do you not believe in karma? The way you live is the way you die? Yeah, good or bad? But she said, until I seen the death of the Prophet ﷺ. She goes, the amount of pain I seen him suffer and go through, it took all that out of me. And he didn't suffer the pain because of him, he suffered it because of his ummah. And he prayed to Allah, he said, oh Allah, give me the pain of my ummah now and save them from this pain. Because that is your first pain of akhirah. So that is your physical pain. And one of the things when Malak al-Maut, Israel comes to take your soul, he extracts it so hard that some people's organs start to bend due to the pain and the pull of it. And in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, this effect is the pain of some people, believers, it is like you pull a strand of hair. You will always feel something. And that is nothing basically. And to others, it is though you put a cotton wool on a thorny bush and you try to pull it off. And you should know, if you ever lived in Pakistan or back home, you will know if your thing you got caught in a bush, how hard it is. And he's not just trying to get it off, he's pulling it. That's what the Malak al-Maut does, he pulls it. He keeps pulling it until it leaves, because he doesn't want to leave this dunya. So now these are the rights. You could have granted someone Jannah right there and then. You could have made someone's akhirah. No matter how a person lives, the moment he dies defines his akhirah. It's never look at someone don't look at yourself how you lived. So the question to you is, when you are dying, will someone consider your spiritual pain? Will somebody consider your emotional pain? Will somebody consider your physical pain? You are learning now. You have this in your mindset now. So when someone's dying, you can have this thought. Well, the question is, will someone have that for you? So this is what Islam is. Don't just learn yourself, teach others, give dawah to others. And hopefully you should all give dawah to others, because you don't know who will be around you. Will they fulfill your rights or not?
Yeah, question here from Bob.
Yes. So the person dying does see. This is why when a person is going through the muhtadar person, who these signs start to come, what you will understand is the person suddenly starts looking around the room. And you think, I'm sitting here, why are you not looking at me? You say, Bajan, look at me, brother, look at me. But he's looking around the room because he is saying Malak al-Maut in the room. And when you see Malak al-Maut, the zuban is constricted. The tongue is constricted. They cannot tell you, I see. Other than the awliya, who Allah grants that they can see, and they give salam to the angels, and they give reply, and they tell you, look who is visiting me. But for an armed individual, this is why when a person dies, sometimes they die looking to the side, sometimes the neck is like this, because the angel of death came from the top of the head and they constructed the soul. So that's why you should be considerate of these things. It's not just a matter of once he's dead, okay, we got to deal with it. And believe it or not, I've been in situations when I've attended certain situations when someone's about to die and people are coming to the houses, and the first question they asked is, have you arranged the food? Subhanallah. This is what's going through the mind. Who's going to do the fuel? Where are you going to buy it from? Where are they going to sit? Food is important for us, but not for the individual that's going. So it's priorities. This is what we judge. So what we can do is think about our priorities for that individual.
So let's say now the person has passed away. Now, the very first thing you should try to do in general, this is very in generic, try to make the person face Qibla. Now, obviously, we all have apps on our phone to find Qibla, whether you're in hospital or at home. But obviously, in a hospital, you can't always do this because the beds are sometimes limited in their maneuverability. So it's actually sunnah to try to make the person face Qibla. And it's not very difficult to do, especially at home. Now, there's a few ways of doing this you have to bear in mind. If you can move the person physically, that's good. If you can't, try to move the bed as much as possible. Again, in a hospital, this is not going to happen. The hospital staff will not let you do this. I don't know about around here, but where we are, they're very strict on these things, and you can't blame them, it's a hospital. So, do your best to try to make a face Qibla. If you can't turn the body, turn the face or the feet. Now, cleanliness or hygiene is something we're going to go on about again and again throughout the whole process. From this stage to the ghusl, the ghusl, everything is all about hygiene. So try to make sure the sheets are clean on the bed. Because obviously, biologically, sometimes waste comes out of the body, depends on the situation of the person. But if you're at home, this should not be an issue at all. Try to make sure cleanliness is everywhere. On the sheets, the people are in a clean state. If anyone is in a period of, some such as time of the month, they need to be leaving, they cannot be there at this moment in time. So cleanliness is a big part of this journey now. Try to use fragrance. It doesn't matter whether it's agarbatti, it's anything, bakhur, anything, pleasant smells. At the end of the day, you want angels to come in that particular region now in the room. You don't want the shayateen. The shayateen love bad, foul smells. We want to do the opposite. We want nice smells. Certain verses can be recited. Obviously, anything in the Quran is beneficial, of course, but Surah Yasin and Surah Al-Ra'd, these are the two surahs are recommended to be recited at this moment in time. And again, purity and impure people, even if you're a brother, a male, but you are in a state where ghusl is wajib for you, go do ghusl, come back. No one should be around this person right now who's in an impure state.
So the reason we're focusing on cleanliness is for those people that ever venture into the world of ruqya, or into the world of the shayateen, or into the world of jinnat, you will know that this is a person now that's still alive. He's not dead yet, he's still alive. And what you should be doing now, when the person is about to die, the veils between your life and the veils of the jinnat slowly start to lift. Now all the jinnat and shayateen can see this person. Now what happens when the soul is extracted, that body has now become a vessel. And what the jinnat and shayateen like to do, they like to enter the body. That's what they do. Sometimes they do it with living beings, sometimes they do it with people that pass away. So by you following this, you are maintaining and protecting that body from the shayateen and from the jinnat. By keeping it tahir, by making the brother do wuzu. If they can't do wuzu, then do tayammum on them. Okay? And the reason you're protecting them is we know in the masajid the angels come. Why do the angels come in the masajid? Because it is clean. Because you don't enter the masajid if you need to do ghusl. If you're in the state of najasa, impurity, ghusl, then you should not enter the masjid. Same way, this person now is in a predicament. Because of you, you can either invite the shayateen next to this individual, or you can invite the angels next to the individual. Again, it's all up to you. Now, if some sisters, what they would apparently do is if the mother or the father is passing away, they might be in their haid, their menstrual cycle in the month, but they will say, this is my one chance in my lifetime to see my father the last time. And what they say, they will come into the room, they will sit with their father, you're in the state of najasa, okay, and you are taking that time. It is better for this person that you stay a bit of a distance. Fulfill the right. We're not saying don't fulfill the right, but keep a bit of a distance. Respect that. That's the best you can do for this individual. And for men, if you're in a state of ghusl, within Sharia, you should be doing ghusl straight away anyway, as soon as that element comes. So that's the reason we say Loban, we ignite the fragrance again. When you fragrance, the angels come. You are creating an environment for this individual. Because what the main thing you got to understand is who's coming to visit this person now. Who's about to come to visit this? Angels. So now you are the host. and the guests are the angels. Now we know the angels like tahir place, they like clean place, they like places that are fragrant. Now you as a Muslim, Islam says you should be hospitable. You should put the red carpet out, yeah, open the door for them, welcome them. Now if you welcome the angels, do you think they will not go back to Allah and say the way they were welcomed for their soul? When they come to the gate of heaven, they will say, who is this? What a beautiful hostship this person's family did. All because of you, his respect and honor is growing into the realm before he goes into the warga of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if they come and they say, oh, we've seen people crying, wailing and doing this, and you left him alone, is this the kind of people you left behind you? If this was what you, the kind of life you lived, if this what you taught your children to do behind you, you just made his life a hell before he has even gone to the grave. Again, this is why we say all these rights are yours. They're his rights, but you got to fulfill them. Her rights, you got to fulfill them. You do not fulfill them, he won't be questioned, you will be questioned. Okay, that's the important stuff here. That's why we like to start these courses with this element here, because afterwards he's done, he's gone. But the main element, you could have made a difference to this individual. But most of us choose not to make that difference, or are unaware. Ignorance is a sin in itself. That is why in Islam, go out, learn, seek the knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this knowledge to us, though we didn't deserve it. And though we don't deserve it, we still try to pass it on. So somebody might gain this knowledge in one way or another.
Now, something mentioned before about Star which I'm just going to quickly touch upon. For those who don't know what talqeen is, I'm going to show you now. Now, chances are you know, you're just perhaps unfamiliar with the terminology that's been expressed here today. See, from time to time, again, thank you for your patience. I'm going to assume, however, some people in here know nothing, and that's fine. The main thing is you're here to learn, but from time to time, I would assume people sometimes know nothing. So talqeen, now here you've got the Arabic, beneath you've got the transliteration, and at the bottom you've got the translation. Now chances are, now you've seen it, everybody knows what this is. Now the sunnah is to encourage the person dying to recite this, not force. Now sometimes you see this, it's quite sad, but don't start putting pressure on the person dying, read, and force them. No, they're already experiencing 3 types of pain. They don't need you on top to force them to read this. If they can't read it, so let it be. It is what it is. But do try to encourage them. You can read it. Remind them of the declaration. So again, I'm not going to read this out loud. The Arabic's there with the transliteration, but this is something highly recommended you do. And if you see after a period of time they cannot read, khair. You just do what you can, however. But please do not force anything additional on the person at this moment in time. See, there are other things that's also disliked. Like we just said, the talqeen itself. Try not to leave the person alone. I mean, Allah Ta'ala knows best what they're seeing, the angel of death, or, you know, like I said, the veil is about to be lifted for them. You don't want to leave them alone. If you have to take it in turns with a family member or friend, so be it. Take it in turn. It's not rocket science. Please, please don't leave them alone. It's disliked to stain the person if you're in a state of hate. Now, I'm not going to go over this. I've already mentioned this before, but again, cleanliness is the key. Talking about dunya matters there and then is highly unnecessary. Take it elsewhere or delay it. It's not needed at that moment in time. At the end of the day, the person's about to pass away. That's paramount. That's your number one priority. If you are going to talk to them, give them hope, like Ustaz Saf said. Give them hope about Allah Ta'ala's mercy, about His sifat, and the 99 to talk about. Give them hope about Allah Ta'ala will forgive you. You lived a good life. Thank you for this, this, and this. Thank you for raising us. You know, really give them hope. This is the time that they need hope. They don't need the fear. They need hope in Allah Ta'ala. And Allah Ta'ala loves it when we remind about His sifat and look at how many times Allah Ta'ala mentions His attribute of mercy in the Quran. This is the one sifat Allah Ta'ala talks about more than any other sifat in the Quran is His mercy. This is the time to give the person hope in Allah Ta'ala's mercy. Crying, again, crying excessively, we're not saying don't cry. This is, you know, it's unnatural. No, you're going to cry. It's human nature. Just control it. Now, for the men, it's a bit easier. We're a bit more controlled of our emotions. For sisters, again, try your best. But don't stop somebody from crying because this is unnatural and it's unhuman. Again, recitation of the Quran now, just be careful with this. Recitation, there's a time to recite, there's a time not to recite. Pre-death is okay because the person's still alive. In between when they pass away and ghusl is needed, and the death itself, the person, well, the body, the mayyit is not in a clean state. So this is the time you don't recite Quran. Afterwards, okay, when we come onto it, you'll see it's perfectly permissible and encouraged. And again, it's permitted to recite, if you're sat away from the deceased, or at least put a clean cloth, and it has to be clean, over the entire body. The whole body must be covered with a cloth, then you can recite Quran. So as you can see, the Sharia is very, very flexible, it's very accommodating to different situations, different circumstances. So there's a time to recite Quran, especially before death. After the person passes away, and between that and ghusl, it's an impure state. If you wish to recite Quran, just make sure there's a bit of a distance between yourself and the deceased, and also put a clean sheet over.
So there's 2 points I would like to emphasize on there. One is in regards to the recitation. I've been to houses. You might think this guy has been to a lot of houses, but you know the predicament we're living in. Corona's gone, the amount of people you go to, and I've seen people put YouTube videos of recitation on. And it makes me think, subhanAllah, this is your brother, your father, and you don't have the desire to recite yourself, but rather you are so lazy and not caring about the individual. You'd rather just play YouTube and just chill and deal with the relatives that are coming. And let me give you a quick short story of Hazrat Sultan Bahu, rahimullah, from Thingy, Pakistan. It's a famous narration of this story. I'll make it quite short for you. Is once two people came to, quite poor people, and they came to them and they said, we want to get our daughter married off, and we're short of money. So what they did is they grabbed a brick that was near them, and they recited Bismillah Surah Fatih, and they blew and it turned to gold. So this person, they go sell it and marry your daughter off. Now this person goes home, and on his way he's thinking, subhanallah, a way to get rich. So he goes home and he sits, he does wuzu, he sits, he goes to his wife, bring me a few bricks. Yeah, I'm going to do exactly what they did. And he sits and he recites Surah Fatih, he starts blowing, but nothing's happening. He goes, maybe I need to do ghusl. So he goes to do ghusl, he does it again, nothing's happening. In the meantime, Hazrat Sultan Bahu rahimullah walks past, because they were aware of this, what this individual's intention is. And they walk past and they go, oh man, kalam is barhaq. What you are reciting is the truth, but the zuban is not Bahu's. The zuban is not Bahu's, meaning my zuban, my tongue was pure. So the asr of the recitation was different. Your tongue is impure, though the Quran is legit, it is genuine, it is not having an effect. So now you tell me, what effect of Surah Yasin will be more, an internet or the person physically reciting? Okay, this is your chance to have an effect of this individual. And the last point is regarding the sheet. When this person has passed away, I mentioned it before, the realm of the jinnat and the shayateen opens up. And the beauty and the wisdom of Islam and the Sharia of the Prophet ﷺ is, just by you putting a sheet over them, they get hidden from the jinnat and shayateen. They can no longer see them. Now they are known as barzakh. But by you not putting a sheet and you leave it out for your family members to see, you are already leaving them out for the jinnat and shayateen to see. And they will come in and out and they will do all sorts of stuff. For you, you are benefiting the family who want to see. If they want to see, lift it, close it. Because the moment you lift, you have opened them up to the realm of the shayateen and jinnat. And that's the beauty of our Sharia. Remember, everything in Sharia has a wisdom behind it. The difference is we just don't know the wisdom. So we assume it's just a sheet. But that's one powerful thing just in regards to the sheet.
Now again, when a person passes away, depending on where they are, whether in hospital or at home, just try to do your best to accommodate these few actions. Obviously closing the eyes is, well, straightforward. Just close the eyes gently with your hand. And again, I'm going to emphasize the word gently now, because the way you treat the particular body, this deceased individual, always be gentle. And every step of the journey now, be very gentle. And there's reason for this, which inshallah will come on to later on. Try to tie a strip of material around the face. So you want to cover this whole jaw, around the jaw. Essentially, you want to keep the jaw closed. Because obviously gravity is gravity, eventually if you don't tie it, the jaw will drop. This becomes an issue in the ghusl process, as you'll see later on, inshallah. Try to straighten all the limbs, the arms down to the fingers, making sure they're nice and straight, the legs, the knees, the ankles, and the toes, try to make them nice and straight. Again, you're going to see later on why this benefits during the ghusl and the coughing process. Gently place something onto the stomach, because is anybody here a doctor? I'm not being racial, stereotypical, but we have a lot of Asians. Anyone here a doctor or anyone in the medical field? Okay. Well, think back to high school, GCSE biology. Maybe you covered, I know when I was young, which is many, many years ago, about the different gases that can generate in the stomach. When a person passes away, biology is still going on inside the body, you get gases. What you don't want to do is the stomach to start, are we okay? No. What we don't want to do is the stomach start to bloat unnecessarily. So something like a pillow, something light, nothing too heavy, just something light enough to put pressure on the stomach to prevent bloating. Again, and as the picture demonstrates, try to tie the two large toes together. Here they've used a white cloth. A lot of people use a white cloth. At the end of the day, as long as it's clean for the jaw and the two toes, you want to keep the toes straight and the feet together. What you don't want to do is the legs start opening up and going funny angles. Again, it makes life difficult further on down the process when you're cleaning the body and shrouding it. Any jewelry or dentures must be removed. Now, when we say jewelry, we mean obviously like rings, bracelets, necklaces, all these things, piercings. For dentures, dentures can be removed quite easily. Now, a lot of people ask me, what's about fillings? Fillings are fine. Don't worry about fillings, they're perfectly permissible to stay there. Dentures must come out. And if you have this is very dangerous. If you have a gold tooth, or you see the person has a gold tooth, you have to pull it out. Whether with pliers, it doesn't matter. The tooth comes out. This is why we say never get a gold tooth. So just bear that in mind. Again, cover the deceased with a clean cloth, we've said this before, or use a garment sufficient to cover the entire length of the body. The key is to cover the whole body. As long as it's clean, it doesn't have to be white. I know many images have a white sheet. Don't worry too much about the colour as long as it's clean. And again, if the person passes away at night, i.e. it's already dark, do not leave them in darkness. Turn the lamp on, turn the lights on, have somebody with them, if possible at all times. If you have to rotate between family members, so be it.
I think some elements we need to speak about here is why. So a brother asked us, I've attended many places and people give different types of things, different types of what to do, what not to do. Some elements here is some people might not do. But the question is, why do we do them? Why do we tie the face? Why do we tie the ankles together? Why do we crack the limbs? Because that's preparation for everything that's coming ahead. If this person has died in agony, their arm might be here, their face might be there, their legs might be spread. And what you'll find out, when the moment a person dies, his body is fresh, the blood is warm. You can move them. Because if the legs are like this, how are you going to do coffin around the legs so far apart? Your sheet won't even wrap. So you need to bring them together. And if you miss out on the moment, it lasts a few minutes, 10, 20, maximum 30 minutes. After that, the blood becomes cold and the body becomes stiff. If their body was like this and you'll break the fingers by the time you straighten it. And every pain that person goes through is 100 times more than what you will go through. So you are causing that. So before you start weeping with your family members, before you start arranging the food, before you start ringing your relatives, fulfill these rites. Close the job, because when you do ghusl, water will go in. And when water goes in, there's only one way for it to come out. You're going to create more mess for yourself. Close the toes. Why? Because you need to wrap the coffin around them. Remove the jewelry, because afterwards, removing it, you'll break the fingers. If the arms are like this, you'll break the elbows. Every single bone you will break of this individual until you get them straight. And that's a must for you. You need to do this. Because if you don't do it as a family member, somebody else will. Because by the time it goes to the funeral committee and by the time it goes to the ghusl bed, and if they see the body like this, they'll break the bones to get it straight. Okay, and we'll speak about ghusl and a few of the misconceptions that people have in regards to that. So that's the reason we say this. Now, you got a choice of the gold tooth that was mentioned by Ustaz Sufyan is. Now, not everybody might pull it out for you. Okay, you might think that's painful. But what's more painful is you going into the grave with the golden tooth. Because gold is haram on men. Now, who will actually remove your gold tooth? Will people remove it? Not really. They'll let you go in. So think twice about what you got on your body. And you don't know what time you're going to die or in what state you're going to die. So you should always be aware of them at every single time.
Yeah, question there from brother.
Girls, I've not seen any girls with gold tooth, but if they have, then it is jais. They're allowed to have gold. Okay. Normally they say it is for jewelry. They should not put gold tooth because gold in teeth it is sign of caliber and richness and reputation. It is not a need. It is an excessive need. That is what you do to show off, which in itself would be najais for that woman to have a gold tooth. Same as for men. Men is a double the sin. Yes. 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 So when this person now, when he dies, because what you got to consider is this soul. This is why you got, when you learned about the alim barzakh, when this person has died, the soul travels to the arsh. It either is allowed entry or it is disallowed entry, and it comes down and it roams about till the ghusl happens, and the kafan until it goes into the grave. So if your death has happened at night time, that body is still around, that soul is still around, and you're too busy sleeping, you're too busy dealing with relatives. You should be there reciting the Quran, sending swab upon them, sitting around, because they're in a state of darkness. Everything goes dark for them, depending on how it is. But what they can't see is you. And what they can't see is the surroundings. If you make the surroundings dark and the alam is dark, you have left them nothing but light. Okay? They're still in the transition period. That is what barzakh means, transition from the grave to the light. So what you do makes a very big of a difference for this individual.
So you said the soul is roaming.
Yes, until it's gone into the grave.
Roaming within the vicinity of the body, or
It's quite restricted to the body, yes. Depending on the power of the soul, as in the righteousness. Because those who are righteous to Allah are given free roam, because they don't have to worry about what's in the grave. But those who have got a torment coming, they're held. You're not a criminal. Would you let a criminal roam? Is to question is wisdom of people say why he constricted and he's not restricted. Why can't the awliya go? Why can't he go? Is because you're a criminal. If you're a criminal, the angels will grab you. You're not going anywhere, mate. You stay here. Your job is in the grave. I'll deal with you there. And then the dealing there, we all know about if you don't learn about the barzakh.
That's the same for in the barzakh as well, by the way. After the burial is done, the person led a pious and righteous life, they can roam through the vast domain, and the opposite is true for the sinful person. Okay,
We got quite
we'll
a few
take a few
questions.
more questions, I think, just for the time, and anything else we can ask
I
at the
think the
end.
brother had it first. Yes.
From a practical point of view, when the person dies, the body's taken to a freezer, right?
Yes.
Like, would you recommend keeping like the body at home for a longer period of time?
So when we come on to ghusl, we will answer that. So from this element to the element ghusl is what you should do and what you should do. Inshallah, we'll come on to that. We'll take 1 2 questions maximum. Then
Take one more for now, please.
I think the brother behind you had a question. Still got it? He's answered the same one. Yes? And then we'll move on to there.
It's okay, well, yeah, I'll give you a chance. Just ask the, have you asked?
Go on, we'll go to brother there.
just being pedantic, don't have a good tooth because
If you don't have a gold tooth,
if you've got a silver tooth, does that make that?
or if it's silver or anything else, no, that's jais. It's fine. That's why we say if you need a tooth, get anything but gold. But that's jais for you, allowed. Last question, and then inshallah we'll move. Yes. Replacement. If it's fixed, it's fixed. If it's anything that moves, like dentures, they move. Last thing you want to do is when you're moving about and it goes and sticks into their throat and they end up swallowing it because there are no muscles there anymore. So that's why you remove anything that's movable. Anything that's fixated, fixed, we leave it in. Okay, we avoid it. I'll take one more question while we're having here. Nope.
I think if we just
Go
put
on.
the time,
Last question.
do you want to do one more? Should we move on?
We'll have the last one since
No.
I've.
So you said that between the time of death and the time of ghusl, it's
Yes.
best to avoid reciting Quran because the body's impure.
Yes.
I was just a bit confused. If you cover the body with a sheet, are you then allowed to recite Quran?
You can recite. Now the different recite. Are you reciting on the jism? Are you reciting to send the reward to the jism?
Probably the second.
The second one. So that is jais. But if you're sitting on top of it, would you go keep the Quran and recite in an impure place? You wouldn't. You tend to stay in a purer place. So your intention should be, I'm reciting the Quran because of the barakah and the rahmah of this Quran fills the vicinity and it makes it easier for that person, or you send the reward of this Quran upon the soul of this individual. It's not going to make you a difference by you putting the Quran next to them or you're sitting 10 meters away. It doesn't make a difference, because the point is to send reward or get the rahmah in that room. That's the purpose of it. So misconception, that's the important thing.
Speaking of reciting, so now we looked at the physical components as what to do. I'm going to give you a couple of options now, what you can recite in terms of supplications or du'as. And again, if you cannot recite the Arabic, don't worry too much, just recite the English, which is obviously presented beneath. Now, don't worry about memorizing this. Like I said, scan the QR code. If you give feedback, we will give you this PDF completely for free. Keep it forever. So there are a couple of supplications one can recite there and then. Again, for those maybe, like I said, I don't know, we have maybe some reverts here, some converts who struggle with Arabic. Understandable. Don't worry, stick to the English for now. Now, to save time, I'm not going to go through this particular, these supplications, but the text is there nevertheless. Now, this is something we'll touch upon quickly, because as soon as some people hear the death of somebody passing away, they'll read the second recitation. Does anybody here want to read that? This is very common, everyone says this. Anyone brave enough to read out? What do we normally say when you see a text message, flan person passed away? Or
Asking for the second one, by the way, not the top one. Okay.
So yeah, that's the one everyone reads, isn't it? It's true, isn't it? Everyone reads this, no doubt. However, this is a misconception. Number one, what should you be reading and who should be reading? You see, the first one says all the individuals of the family of the deceased should be reading the first one. Everyone else reads the second one. So there's a distinction. Now, again, this is, I don't know, maybe our ignorance of our people of our age, like myself, but everybody reads the second one automatically as a default. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un as a standard. And even with typing on WhatsApp, this is the first thing we say. But again, this now determined by who you are in relation to the deceased, if you're family or not family.
So the 2 points, obviously I'm not going to elaborate on that. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un is, I fell down, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. I just had a car accident, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Yeah, that's the dua for that individual. Is every time you hear bad news, that's what you should recite. Okay, the pious people, Allah says, they recite that any time something bad happens to them, because it came from Allah, we are going to Allah. Yeah, to increase your iman. Before this, we had a quick one in regards to Bismillahi wa billahi wa millati Rasulullah. Okay, in the name of Allah, upon the deen and the religion of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the dua. And a person dies, again we said you are the host, you are departing it into the hands of the angels. How would you depart his soul into the hand of the angels? They say, in the name of Allah, I give upon the deen of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam into your hands. So when Allah asks them, in what state did this person go? Ya Allah, he was sent upon in your name. He was sent upon the deen of your Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This is how we brought him. And would Allah turn that person down? So he might be sinful, but because of you, Allah is very conscious of how a person comes into his bargah. Okay, all because of you.
Okay, let's quickly move on before I invite Brother Zahir to come up and talk about the admin issues that you have to face, unfortunately, and mostly more local, specific to Maidenhead in this particular region of the country. See, the Prophet ﷺ said to notice the fact that you should hasten towards the burial, meaning just be quick. Because at the end of the day, if the person who departed was righteous and pious, return him to the Lord as soon as possible. And if the person was a sinful person, good riddance. This is the wisdom behind it. It sounds harsh, but it's true. So when it comes to the ghusl, the washing, the shrouding, the burial process, ASAP, as soon as possible. Don't wait till, I'll give you an example. My father passed away on a Monday, many years ago, in a hospital. So see, a lot of things that happened before we couldn't do. We couldn't move the bed towards Qibla. And one of the family members said, oh, let's wait till Friday. No, not wait till Friday. It's Monday. I was burying him today or tomorrow. And alhamdulillah, we did in the end. But they had to think, oh, it's Friday, the blessed day. I'm not waiting 5 days. I want to follow this hadith sharif. Bury my father ASAP. And we did. So please just bear this in mind. Time is of the essence here. I'm not going to cover this because I'm going to ask Brother Zahir to come up and just talk about, if that's okay, I'll load up your slides, inshallah.
So while that's coming in, let me just mention the fact here is, this is an element now is where we suddenly start contacting relatives straight away. We start dealing with the food, we start dealing with this. And a brother asked a question today is, earlier you put it into the freezer. Now my question is, you're putting this body into the freezer, you're waiting till Friday. Is that for him or is that for you? Who are you creating ease for? All this session is entirely on that person. It's nothing to do with you. Don't be selfish. Don't say, oh, my brother might come from America, he needs 3 days to come, and you're letting your father suffer in this lingering. Yeah? Who are you doing it for? Will he come and make a huge difference just because he sees the face? His dua will make a huge difference. Okay? Everything that we've covered is all about this individual. Do not be selfish. Your job is to fulfill the rights. Okay? So I hope that answers that in a very brief manner.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Jazakallah, brothers. Inshallah, I will explain to you what we do once a person has passed away. They will do a number of things. So firstly, what you need to do is, at the time of death, you need to verify that the person has passed away. The person, either they are at home, they are in hospital, or they are somewhere else. So how do you verify the death? So if you are at home and somebody passes away, either the death is expected, so you are already prepared for it and you know it's coming, or it's unexpected. So if you know you have an elderly parent or member of the family who's unwell, firstly, I'd like to thank Brother Asif, mashallah. Asif Hussain was actually prepared and collated these slides. So I'm just having a bit of difficulty for because this for me is slightly difficult because I just like to speak off the cuff, and just following the slides is probably more difficult for me. So if you pass away at home and a member of the family, if you're expecting they are passing away, and there's a number of things you can actually do before they pass away. What we have, I will come to that later on. I think the way we've sort of set up these slides, okay, registration, yeah. So if you, the person, if they're passing away and they're unwell and you're expecting them to pass away, so what we have in place at the moment is we have a medical doctor who's available to come and see the person who's unwell. Because you don't know when the person is going to pass away. They could pass away a weekend, so the doctor is not available. If they are unwell, so you got somebody, an elderly person, they're going into hospital and the hospital have sent them back home. What you need to do is you need to stay in touch with your GP, because your GP will sign off. So what happens, say, if the GP surgery is closed, or it's weekend, it's holiday period, so what you will do is we have a medical doctor who can come and see your member of your family before they pass away, and he will get permission from the GP to sign off the death. So that's number one. So if it's expected, that can be done that way. If it's a sudden, somebody passes away, then obviously you need to call the emergency services. Either you can call 111 or 999, and they will ask you, they will send out a ambulance to come and verify whether the person has passed away or they haven't passed away. They will ask me to arrange, or they will ask the family to arrange for the funeral director to move the body to the morgue. If the person has passed away at hospital, what generally happens is that the doctor who's actually dealing with it, the senior doctor, they will sign off the death of that person. Either if it's late in the afternoon, what they will say to you is, if you come in the morning, back in the morning, to the bereavement office, and then we will issue you with the cause of death certificate, which you need to use and take to the registrar's office. Before, it was a physical, so they used to give you a piece of paper which you take and you actually will go over to the registrar's office. Now they will just email it across, and then from there, you just need to go over to the registrar's office. Another thing you need to understand is, if somebody's passed away at Wexham Park, the registration will take place in Slough at the Curve. If somebody passes away at Heatherwood, then the registration will take place at Maidenhead. Or if somebody passes away at home in Maidenhead, then obviously the registration will take place at Maidenhead. Also, if, say, somebody's passed away in a care home, they will deal with the cause of death certificate themselves, and obviously the body will be transferred over to the morgue, or it will be taken to the masjid or the storage place, wherever it needs to go. If the death is unexpected, then the coroner could get involved. That process could take a number of days. So one thing to remember is, when you're dealing with the authorities, that you need to be very polite and very nice to them, because unfortunately what happens is, when somebody passes away, people are already very distressed, and if the person has passed away in hospital and they believe that the hospital maybe they haven't looked after their loved one properly, they might show their frustration, and what will happen is, once they do that and the case is transferred over to the coroner will make sure that there's a thorough investigation takes place, because what they don't want is anything coming back to them, and it will take a very long time. We've had cases where the son made a big fuss, and I think it took over a week, and then they were apologizing to them later on, but it's too late. So what you need to do is, you need to be very calm, very professional, even when you're going to the registrar's office. Although you want things to go very quickly, another thing is, unfortunately what we have in our community is, so somebody rings me up and they'll say, oh, a loved one has passed away, can we make some arrangements? I said, okay, fine, I will call the funeral director, or I will send the information over to the funeral director. And what they will start doing is, they will start calling X, Y, and Z, try to use their influence and pull the strings. And unfortunately, this doesn't help anybody, because when you're dealing with authorities and you have multiple people ringing you up, they don't like that. So you need one point of contact between the family. So generally, either the family will directly speak to the funeral director and they will deal with the other parties, or they will ask me and I will deal on their behalf. So what you don't want is people trying to pull strings and trying to do things, make things go a bit quicker. You have to do things in a sort of orderly manner. The funeral director where we use is Islamic Funeral Services in Slough, Brother Iyaz, everybody knows. So we've been using it for many years, and but obviously the family are free to use whatever funeral service they feel. We just use Islamic Funeral Services because they have developed a relationship with the different sort of authorities, the cemeteries office or the registrars and the coroners. They have a special relationship with them, and obviously they are able to move things on quicker. And also, when somebody passes away, one thing is there's a big cost for the burial and the whole process. So what happens is you have the cemetery cost currently, which is for the grave. So you're looking at probably about £3,000, over £3,000 just for the grave. And then you got the funeral director's cost, and then obviously you get the registration cost. So what happens is when somebody, if you're using the funeral director, he will call up the cemetery's office. They will book the grave, the slot for you. The following day, you have to go in, or even the same day if possible. What you do is you go in and you pay by card whatever the amount is. If you are a member of the funeral committee of Maidenhead, then what they will do is they will inform the cemetery's office that this particular individual is a member, and they will invoice us, and then obviously we have 28 days to pay that amount. So that's another thing to consider, being a member of a funeral committee or death committee. We have an upper age limit of 60, so if you're 60 or above, then obviously you can't become a member. Ideally, you should become a member very soon or very early in your life. That will cover your wife and your family as well. And if you do the sums, you're paying a very minimal price. You're not paying a lot of money for the service you're getting. So some people, alhamdulillah, they can afford to pay the money on that particular day. Other people will struggle. So it's better that you are prepared and you have something in place for the eventuality, inshallah. So I talked about the registration. So if you're doing registration at Maidenhead, there's a pre-registration form, so you can go online, fill in the pre-registration form. I think Salah have it as well. So what happens is once the pre-registration form is filled in, it just makes the process a bit quicker. So when you go there, they have all the information in front of them on the computer, and they can process it much more quickly, inshallah. Also, when you're getting the death certificates from the registrar, make sure that you get multiple copies, because you will need those copies. Get 8 or 10 copies, because you will need to contact the bank, maybe in Pakistan or wherever you got. If it's your father's passing away and you have to deal with all the finances, then you need the originals to deal with it. So you can't don't have 1 copy or 2 copies and then later on say, oh, I need more copies. Just grab extra copies and make sure that, obviously you will know where you will be needing. You need to use it for the bank accounts and all the other things. So make sure that you've got all the copies, and that will help you, inshallah. Also, we have some families who want to bury their deceased over in Pakistan or wherever. Sometimes we have people pass away in Haram Sharif, and the family obviously want to bring the body back to the UK. Personally, I think that's not a recommended thing to do. Wherever the person passes away, they should be buried there, and the janazah should take place as soon as possible. And taking the body back to Pakistan, even if your father says to you, bury me in Pakistan, don't take him there. Because if somebody is doing a wasiyat against the Islamic law, then you don't have to follow it. Some people, they say, oh, but you need to do the right thing. It's your duty now. You can't follow just because they said it, So you have to do the right thing and bury them as soon as possible. And as the brothers are obviously explaining, follow the rights. If you do decide to obviously send the body across to Pakistan, a lot of the airlines, they need at least 24 hours notice. So mainly at the moment we're using like British Airways or Virgin, which are direct flights. I think one of them's got 24-hour notice period, and the other one's got 48-hour notice period. So you have to bear these things in mind, and you can only book them once you know the paperwork is actually being sorted, or it can be sorted in a particular. The brother will not book the airline before your paperwork is ready. So sometimes people are pushing and pushing. Another thing is regarding the Janazah announcement. A lot of people don't realize that we need to get the paperwork sorted before we can make the announcement. Some people say, "Pai elan kari chodo." And then we've had in the past, alhamdulillah, we don't make any announcements now until everything is cleared. In the past, what's happened is they said, make the Janazah announcement, you make the Janazah announcement, and they find out the paperwork can't be ready. And then they say, oh, sorry, we have to change the time now. So it's very important that do everything in order, in the right stages, follow the process, respect the advice that is given to you by the people who are actually leading the process. And don't try to undermine those brothers, because the funeral director, alhamdulillah, is very experienced. He will guide you as well. But there's always brothers who think they know better. And so just a word of caution. Hopefully you understood. I've been going back and forth, but hopefully that was, I just was smiling. Maybe I just understood something. So if any questions from the brothers before I leave the stage. Yeah, so the medical person will verify the death. So so you can't verify the death yourself. Obviously, you will have some sort of judgment whether the person has passed away or hasn't passed away, but the official verification will happen by the GP or whoever the medical person who will arrive to check. Yeah. That's actually a very good question. If we are saying there's 20 minutes before you can do those things and you're waiting for the medical person to come, but obviously you will do whatever is possible and you will have an assessment whether the person has passed away. So if you feel the person has passed away and you try to do all the checks possible that you can do as a layperson, then obviously you will do what you need to do, and then obviously wait for the medical person to come in and do their bit. I think that's my sort of advice. So was there, brother, do you have a question?
No, I was just going to say, we should dial 999. You know, emergency services, that's what you usually do.
Yeah, I did mention that, yeah. So, so first thing is dial 999 and then call me, inshallah. Jazakallah.
Okay, Jazakumullah khair. I think 1-2 points just to, before we finish the summary of this session here, is one of the considerations. So this person passed away now, and like I said earlier, we try to deal with the food and, you know, dal pukani, gosht pukani, and some people, the fathers have eaten dal for the last few days before they're dying, and when people come, you've got gosht and karais going on, yeah? So the question is, forget the people, yeah? Feed that gosht and karai to your father, okay? Not the people. So our priorities are totally different. But the main thing I want to see here is the one forgotten sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you go back to our Indo-Pak region, for those of who are elder here, in our regions they used to do something known as a kora vata. So kora vata means we have a bit of an interaction with our neighbors or other people. So if a death happens in your house, which in Islam, you should not cook anything in your house for 3 days. Other people should cook for you and engage in this. We have totally left that sunnah. What we say now is, we cook, and the neighbor comes, we'll drink a tea at your house. Now this person got his father on the deathbed, and now he has to cater for you as well. Then people come to the puri and they sit and they expect lunch as well. Then they expect dinner as well. For God's sake, this person is dealing with the death. Let him fulfill the rights of the death first. If you are coming, do your afsos, leave. Unless you can say, brother, you deal with this, I'll handle the food. If you can't take burden off him, don't give burden to him. Now this is a sunnah which the Christians have adopted. If you go to a funeral of Christians, they have something called a wake. Wake is everybody brings one dish to the house of the people that passed away. That's the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How far away from our deen we have moved. And then we are, I went and say, gosh ko nahi kadai bas dal hi hai, you know, and they're bickering about what dishes on the menu here. Okay, so that's a main thing we need to really address and move away from, to be honest. So that concludes us on the first section, but I want to leave two main questions with you on the end of section 1 before we have a quick short break before we move to section 2. Is first of all, you learned all of this, and I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but what I'm trying to do is make you feel accountable. How much of what you have learned have you actually fulfilled for people that have left around you? Or do you think has been fulfilled? And my second big question for you is, you can fulfill the rights of other people. After today's session, I would like to believe that the way you send somebody else off would be according to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. But the big question is, will somebody do that for you? That's the question you've got to think. That's the $1 million question here.